Imagine you decide to buy a $60,000 truck.
Okay.
You do your research, you find the exact model you want online, you call the dealership with cash in hand, you leave a voicemail, and then absolutely nothing happens.
Just total silence.
Right. You are met with total silence, and, well, statistically, nearly half of you will face that exact
It's
scenario.
pretty wild to think about.
It really is. And that massive gap in communication is exactly what we're unpacking today. We're doing a deep dive into the automotive industry, specifically looking at a phenomenon called the outsourced BDC trap.
Right. Looking at that critical gap between doing something quickly and, doing something right.
Exactly. We're exploring how the desperate rush to respond to customers quickly has led businesses to outsource their very first interaction, and how that choice might be costing them massive amounts of trust and, obviously, money.
We are essentially looking at the illusion of efficiency.
But before we get into it, this deep dive is brought to you by DeskReadyLeads.com. If your dealership is tired of leads with no context, no intent, and no real reason to buy, it may be time for a different approach. Visit DeskReadyLeads.com to see how we can help your dealership generate better conversations with buyers who actually have a reason to engage.
And, that idea of generating a better conversation, that's really the perfect launching pad for this whole discussion.
Yeah.
Because to understand why businesses farm out their customer service, we first have to look at the execution crisis they're actually trying to solve.
Right, because dealerships aren't just doing this for absolutely no reason.
No, not at all. In the automotive world, the BDC stands for the Business Development Center. You can kind of think of it as the Internet Sales Department.
Okay.
They're the team responsible for fielding digital leads, answering inbound calls, and, setting appointments before the customer ever steps foot on the physical lot.
And managing that team, it's incredibly difficult.
Oh, absolutely.
Because customers, they don't just shop on a Tuesday at 2 in the afternoon when the showroom is fully staffed.
Right, they're shopping at night after the kids are asleep.
Exactly. They shop on Sunday mornings or from their phones during a really chaotic 15-minute lunch break. And if they don't get a real answer, they don't wait around. They just move on.
The data on this is actually pretty staggering. It reveals just how severe this execution gap really is.
What are the numbers looking like?
Well, there's a recent 2026 mystery shop study. They tracked 53 dealerships just to see what happens when a normal person submits an inquiry.
Okay.
Web form leads only received an 85.7% response rate.
Wait, really? So almost 15% of people who raised their hand and said, hey, I want to buy a car, were just completely ignored.
Completely ignored. And phone voicemails were even worse. They got a dismal 55.2% response rate.
Wow. So nearly half the people who cared enough to actually speak out loud and leave a message got nothing back?
Nothing. And even when a store does respond, the delay can just kill the sale entirely.
Because they waited too long.
Right. There was another 2026 index that tracked 200 dealerships. They looked at third-party leads. So, inquiries coming from sites like AutoTrader or Cars.com.
Got it.
The average wait time for a first live phone call was 58 minutes.
58 minutes. That's an eternity online.
It really is. And within that window, only 9% of customers were actually reached by phone.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. The dealership paid good money for that marketing lead, but the internal staff was just too busy or maybe too disorganized to follow up while the customer was still, actively engaged.
So, okay, we have a very real, very painful problem here. The store is just bleeding opportunities.
Exactly.
And right on cue, in walks the third-party vendor with this shiny, seductive solution.
Right. The pitch sounds absolutely perfect. The vendor says, hey, you don't need to hire more people.
We are your virtual BDC.
We'll handle the leads, make the calls, set the appointments. You just focus on selling.
Okay, let's unpack this because it makes me think of an analogy. It's like hiring a proxy to text your dates for you.
Oh, I love that.
Right. Sure, your response time drops to 0, but the person on the other end thinks they are talking to you.
Right, they think it's you.
And when they finally show up to the date and realize they weren't talking to you at all, the magic is instantly gone.
What's fascinating here is that your analogy holds up perfectly when we look at the actual mechanics of what's happening. The problem isn't imaginary, but outsourcing simply gives the problem to someone else under the guise of efficiency.
It just creates this artificial layer between the buyer and the store.
Exactly. So let's talk about the customer experience disconnect. Because when customers submit leads, they genuinely think they are talking to the store.
Yeah, they want specific answers. They're asking, is this truck actually available? Or can you do 500 down?
Or what's my trade worth? But the outsourced BDC agent sitting in a call center, they don't know the local inventory.
They don't know the desk process or the lender relationships either.
Right, so what do? They respond with these frustrating deflections.
Like what?
They'll say, oh, let me check with the store. Or, a manager can discuss that with you.
But wait, let me push back slightly on this. In an industry where speed is everything, isn't a fast, generic response at least better than a customer feeling totally ignored for an hour?
Vendors love to brag about speed to lead. It's their main selling point. But a fast deflection actually blocks the customer from the answer they want.
How so?
Well, a fast, bad response is still bad. Let's compare a lazy script from a call center to real context building from an internal employee.
Okay, give me the lazy script first.
2 seconds after you submit a lead, you get a text. Hi, are you still interested? When can you come in?
Ugh, yeah, that feels super robotic.
It does. Now compare that to, thanks for asking about the 2022 Silverado. It's available on the lot. Are you looking to lower your monthly payment or trade in your current vehicle?
Oh, that's completely different. That actually helps me.
Exactly. Mechanical follow-up, like asking, when can you come in, doesn't create demand. It just pushes for an appointment before any trust has been built.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. If customers hate this robotic interaction, why do general managers keep paying for it?
Oh, that brings us to the dashboard deception.
The dashboard deception, I like that.
The reporting dashboards provided by these vendors look fantastic. They show hundreds of calls, tons of texts, and lots of appointments.
Right, but it's an illusion.
Totally. The biggest trick here is that vendors sell appointments, but dealerships need sales. Those incentives are completely misaligned.
So it creates this crazy cycle of blame.
Exactly. The vendor says, hey, we set 86 appointments this week.
And the sales manager looks at the floor and says, yeah, but half of them were garbage.
Right. And then the salespeople say, well, the BDC didn't qualify them.
It sounds like a nightmare. Let's talk about that handoff, because it sounds dangerous.
It is. You get a vague CRM note that just says, interested in 2022 Silverado. But the customer arrives saying, the person on the phone told me my trade was top dollar and I only needed 500 down.
Oh, no. So now the salesperson has to start on the defensive.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're spending the first 20 minutes cleaning up false promises rather than actually selling the vehicle.
And the source mentioned something called the worst version of this.
Yeah, the worst version is when a store pairs an outsourced BDC with weak-led sources, like generic Facebook leads or recycled data.
Sounds like a recipe for disaster.
It creates a massive vendor stack where everyone just blames someone else.
Mm-hmm.
The lead provider blames the BDC blames the salespeople, and marketing blames the inventory.
It's absolute insanity. The dealership ends up paying twice. They pay the vendor, and then they pay their internal staff to literally clean up the mess.
Exactly.
They've built this incredibly expensive machine just to fail at talking to the customer correctly.
The vendor measures activity, like calls and texts, but the dealership lives with the reality, which is annoyed customers and low-quality appointments.
Right, because a full CRM does not equal a full showroom.
Precisely.
So we have to ask, if the metrics are hollow and the dealership is paying twice, why does this model persist?
And now we're getting to the core issue. It's an avoidance strategy.
Hiding weak management.
Exactly. The uncomfortable truth is that stores outsource the BDC because they just don't want to manage their own process.
I want to ask you, the listener, directly. Think about your own business or a business you manage. Have you ever bought a piece of software or hired an external agency, secretly hoping it would fix a management problem you just didn't want to deal with?
Happens all the time. Managers don't want to inspect CRM activity or hold salespeople accountable or sit down and train word tracks.
So they just buy a vendor to make the problem go away?
But outsourcing a broken process just moves the failure outside the building. It creates nice reports, sure, but reports are not accountability.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, dealerships are treating this as a staffing problem, right?
Yes, but in reality, it's a conversation problem. You cannot outsource context. A real BDC should be an intelligence center, not a call center.
An intelligence center, what does that actually look like?
It should capture the why. What payment are they trying to escape? What's stopping them from coming in right now? What's their timeline?
So the appointment is just the result of a good conversation.
Exactly. It shouldn't be the only purpose of the interaction.
Okay, so we've diagnosed the disease here, but we need the cure. Is all outsourcing terrible, or is there a way to actually use it correctly?
Not all outsourcing is bad. There are times when it makes perfect sense.
Like when?
Overflow support, after-hours coverage, basic service scheduling, recall outreach, or just filling temporary staffing gaps.
Okay, so very specific, narrow tasks.
Right. It must be narrow, controlled, and actively inspected. It can never be a black box where you don't know what they're saying to your customers.
What should a GM be asking their vendor to make sure it's not a black box?
Every GM needs to ask, can I hear the call recordings? Do your agents confirm vehicle availability first? And are you optimizing your team for appointments or for actually sold vehicles?
Because if they optimize for appointments, you get garbage.
Exactly. The optimal model is a hybrid. You keep the high-level strategy inside your store.
Use automation for instant acknowledgement.
Yes, and use AI or templates for basic context gathering, but use your internal people for those high-intent, crucial conversations.
Because every customer should feel like the dealership knows why they reached out.
That is the winning standard.
So what does this all mean? The dealership that wins isn't the one that farms out the most conversations.
No.
It's the one that owns the conversation, right from the first click to the final signature.
Customers do not buy from a vendor. They buy from the store. The reason behind the lead, that's where the sale actually lives.
That makes total sense. Well, I want to thank you for breaking all of this down, and thank you, the listener, for diving into this complex, slightly uncomfortable truth about modern efficiency with us.
Been a great conversation.
It really has. But I want to leave you with a lingering question to ponder long after this deep dive ends.
Oh, I like these.
If we are so willing to outsource our very first impression just to hit an arbitrary speed metric, what other foundational parts of our businesses or even our daily lives are being quietly hollowed out right now by the irresistible illusion of efficiency?